Secretary Andrew Mitchell.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker, and may I thank the Foreign Secretary for sight of his statement in advance, and may I also thank the Foreign Office for their significant help with my visit to Ukraine at the end of last week. Mr. Speaker, Israel's response to the attack launched by Iran earlier this month has rightly been described as proportionate. Israel has the right to defend itself, and it has done so in a precise and targeted way. The statement by the Israeli Defence Force that it was mission accomplished offers hope that the operation might mark the end of the latest trading of hostilities. Whether and how the Iranians respond remains to be seen, but the head of the IRGC said that, and I quote, "bitter consequences will be unimaginable for Israel." Mr. Speaker, the situation remains dangerously uncertain. We join the government in urging restraint, and the onus must surely now be on Iran to desist from any retaliatory action and that will pull the region further up the ladder of escalation. Mr. Speaker, above all, we must now use Britain's undoubted international connections, experience, responsibility and clout to lift people's eyes to the day after and the hope we can build on the Abraham Accords and move towards the two-state solution that both Palestinians and Israelis deserve. This must be the immutable end of these appalling circumstances and events. What discussion has the Foreign Secretary had with his other counterparts in the region to encourage cool heads to prevail? This applies to Lebanon also, Mr. Speaker. Iran's direct missile attacks on Israel are but one front of its campaign against the Jewish state, which we know it is intent on wiping off the face of the earth. Iran's continuing funding for and support of its Hezbollah proxies in Lebanon and Hamas proxies in Gaza shows what a scourge the IRGC is and how far its tentacles have spread. Mr. Speaker, Hezbollah and Hamas are a cancer in the areas where they operate. Israel has every right to defend itself against evil terrorists who are not interested in compromise, not interested in political solutions, and who use the legitimate plight of Palestinians to justify barbarism. Mr. Speaker, in the face of incessant rocket bombardment of northern Israel by Hezbollah, no country in the world, not a single one, would be expected to sit quietly in the face of such murderous assaults. It is for this reason, Mr. Speaker, that in respect of Lebanon in particular, calls for a ceasefire are most unlikely to be heeded. Hezbollah are not only violating every international law by lobbing rockets and missiles at Israeli towns and displacing tens of thousands of Israeli civilians, they are doing so in flagrant breach of UN Resolution 1701, which clearly called for the withdrawal of Hezbollah and other forces from Lebanon south of the Litani and the disarmament of Hezbollah and other armed groups. Does the Foreign Secretary agree that the retreat and dismantling of Hezbollah, in accordance with UN Security Council Resolution 1701, must be a necessary precondition to end the war? What discussions has the Foreign Secretary had with our partners in the UN to achieve this? Turning to Gaza, Mr. Speaker, some 100 hostages remain in captivity, with the prospect of their release diminishing with every day that passes. The civilians in Gaza continue to pay a heavy price as a result of Hamas using them as human shields and total disregard for the safety and security of its civilian population. Over the weekend, Mr. Speaker, in Kamal Adwan Hospital in Jabalah, northern Gaza, Israel found stashes of weapons and money. A Gazan ambulance driver has confirmed that Hamas operatives embed themselves amongst civilians and even use ambulances to transport terrorists and weapons. In other words, Hamas uses the infrastructure that is supposed to help civilians to advance its terrorist agenda, leaving innocent people neglected and dangerously exposed. Mr. Speaker, we support the DEC appeal, and we hope that shortly we will see a similar appeal launched for Sudan, where people are in desperate danger of starvation this winter. Surely, Mr. Speaker, it is time to face facts. Hamas must lay down their arms. Hamas must release the hostages. Once this happens, the war will end. Aid can flood into Gaza unfettered. The Palestinian people can begin the long and difficult path to recovery. We can start to lift the eyes of Israelis and Palestinians to the possibilities of political horizons, of two states, Mr. Speaker, of peace.